Hey guys, this is Jason, Schmucks Reviews. Um, just got this new webcam, so we're going to try this out, see how this works. Um, be posting this to YouTube shortly once I'm finished with it, and I will post this link obviously on our Facebook page for everybody to watch and enjoy. Um, I know I mentioned earlier last week that we were going to start a new thing on Thursdays called Golden Oldie Reviews, where we talk about something 10 years, at least 10 years old. And Duck will be posting a comic review later today about it, whichever comic he chooses. And I know normally I've been doing movie reviews, and I will be posting another movie review probably tomorrow for Crimson Peak, since I finally got a chance to watch that. But for today, I'm going to change it up a little bit and talk about a video game. In fact, one of my favorites of all time, and that would be Breath of Fire 3 that came out back in 1997 for the PlayStation 1. And just a little history about myself when it came to video games at that point in time. Growing up, all me and my brother had was a Nintendo, the original NES. Of course, we had some Game Boys, but that was it. Up until the N64 came out. And my parents bought us that for Christmas one year, whichever year it was it came out. So we missed the whole Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis era, which also means we missed out on the first two Breath of Fire games and didn't get a chance to play them. Hadn't even heard of the series before until I had played the third one in the series. And again, I knew nothing about the series. I knew nothing about the history of the games. Of course, at that time, the internet wasn't a real big thing, so you couldn't go, Google the games to see what the previous ones were about. So played the game, start to finish is an amazing game. Like I said, it's one of my favorite games of all time. Probably would be in my top 10 favorite games of all time. Don't really know what else would be there right off, besides maybe a few that I can name right off the bat, but it would definitely be in my top 10. Um, it's from the minute you start the game and the opening menu screen, even though you get a little prologue cutscene at the start of the game of two characters going through the mines, where the game starts to find you, the character you play as a baby dragon in a crystal. They explain a lot of the backstory of the game, which, if you've never played any of the games, is fine. This game, it's one of the wonderful things that this game does is fills you in on everything you need to know about the game and the history, even if you've never played the previous two. And like I said, I hadn't. In fact, I didn't even play the first two until they were re-released. I believe it was the Game Boy Advance. They had released the first two on it, and that's when I finally got a chance to play them. Good games, solid RPGs. Nothing really stood out to me with those two. I mean, I enjoyed them. They were solid RPGs, but nothing really grabbed you outside of the dragon part of it. Your character being able to transform into dragons. But that was it. Which, even at that point in time, I'd already played 3 and 4. I believe had come out at that point as well. So it wasn't a big wow factor to me in the previous games, but probably when these first came out, I can understand how it could attract people with that. But like I said, the first two were solid. The third one is, to me, the pinnacle of the series. It was never talked about enough. It didn't get enough recognition or enough love, in my eyes, for how great the game was. Like I said, at the start of the game, you find out you're a little baby dragon in a crystal. You get freed out of this crystal from people. You find out these crystals are harvested for energy. It's like coal. It's dead magical beings form this crystal. They use it for fuel, essentially, and various other things. So that's what they're doing in this mine. They free you. You come out and you just start wrecking havoc in this mine. You start killing people until you get knocked out. You're put on a train to be sent off somewhere, and you break free from you basically knock the cager on off of the train, where you're found in the woods by two orphans in a human form now, which, like I said, that's one of the big attractions of the series is you're actually humans who can transform into dragons. But like I said, you don't need to know any of the backstory. You know, that's how the game starts. You start out as a kid, and then you play through the first part of the game where you find out the history in better details, and even a little bit of backstory of one of the characters you play as. You find out he was one of the guardians chosen by the goddess to take out the dragons. There was a huge war, raged for years. I think they even said it's like 1,000 years ago was when this took place, and that's the first part of the game. You know, you end up in a temple, you fight them, you don't kill them, and then the game fast forward several years later. You're now an adult version, and then from there, the game sends you on a quest to find out why. Why were the dragons killed? Why was that war raged? And that's when you find out it's the goddess from the previous two games who is just insane and wants to just kill the dragons. It's a huge issue with the whole series is dealing with this goddess and her interactions with the dragons. And that's pretty much the story of the game in a nutshell. Really condensed. There's a whole lot more that happens. Some tragic things, some real funny parts. One of the characters in the game is basically a walking, talking onion, who is actually one of the best characters in the game if you actually utilize him right, which most people did not. They just skipped over him because at first he is incredibly weak, but he is still a very, very strong and powerful character towards the end of the game if you use him right. But like I said, that's enough on the story. The gameplay itself is very traditional RPG for the time. You run around a map, you get into random encounters, you fight the monsters. That's it. Which, like I said, at the time, that's pretty much how every RPG was at the time. Nothing really like what you see now with all the active battles. Everything was turn-based, you know, random encounters on the map, and that was RPGs back then. So you know, it was how it was for that time, and it does that. Now, the one thing I did like with this game, there was a few things. One, there was the enemy skill system, which I know had been done before in previous games, but this one I really liked it. You know, you could sit there, if it's a skill you can learn from an enemy, you can actually sit there and watch the enemy and learn their move and actually use it yourself. Thought that was really cool. Then you have the masters in the game, which are various characters who you train with. You know, you become their student. It affects how you level up. You know, certain stats are raised and lowered depending on which one it is. And after, you know, 2, 3 levels, you go back to them, you learn a move from them, go back for a couple more levels, and usually they would have like 3, 4, 5 moves, and that was the masters. There was a lot of them in the game. All of them were drastically different. They required certain prerequisites to learn from them, and they were great. You know, there were plenty of them. I don't remember how many there were right off the bat, but you had a lot of them, and they were all different, unique. The moves you learned, obviously, some of them were pretty dumb and you never use them. Some of them were some of the best magic spells in the game. And there was even one I remember you learned early on. I think it's called Magic Ball, that you use throughout most of the game because it is a very strong move. It's a very powerful move. But then, of course, the other big thing is you're transforming into a dragon. Throughout the game, some of them are given to you through the story, certain genes that you use. You can combine 3 of them at a time to get a random combination and a transformation based on that, depending on what three gems you used. And most of them are hidden throughout the game. There's a good couple of them, like I said, that are given to you through the story, and they're wonderful. You know, you got like maybe I think it was 4 or 5 basic forms. You know, you have the little whelp dragon like you start out with in the game. You got a more adult version of a dragon, traditional, you know, like Eastern dragon designs. There was a warrior version, which is basically it's a lot like just a regular person with wings, dragon wings on. Very strong warrior version. That was a good one. There was one that was basically like a big giant armadillo looking one, but with that one it would basically, whereas all the most of the other dragon forms would just change you, the character. When you did the big one, it would change your whole party into this dragon. You had other ones. There was one particular one. I can't remember the name of it, but if you combined it, it would transform you with the attributes of a character in your party. So like if you, I think there was the one with Ray, I believe it was, that you turned into like this dragon tiger hybrid creature that was really cool. And it just depended on which one. Like I think with Momo, you turn into this armor dragon looking thing that was pretty cool. But that's pretty much the bulk of the forms. Each one's very different from the others, and they're all incredibly cool. Well, like I was saying, just start to finish, this game is absolutely amazing. The biggest travesty with this game is it was never really re-released like some of the other ones. You know, like I mentioned earlier, 1 and 2 were re-released on the Game Boy Advance, probably or on some other version that Nintendo put out, whether it's like the Wii Store or something like that. 4 was re-released on the PlayStation Store, but 3 was never done. You know, in all this time, 3 was never re-released. They did a Japan and European only version for the PSP. It never came to America for whatever reason. I really wish it would have, because I would have loved to have had an official copy of this. I did have my brother-in-law mod my PSP, and he put it on there for me. I played the living hell out of it because I love the game. But it's an amazing game. I really wish more people had played it and heard of it. The series itself has pretty much died out since they released one on the PS2 called Breath of Fire Dragon Quarter, which was an awful game. It's like the only game I've ever played that you actually have to restart the game in order to beat the game, because you would hit certain parts that you have to restart the game in order to pass, because you would need to go back and level up some more. Or you're given a time limit in the game, basically, on your dragon powers, and if you use them up, you start back from the beginning of the game with all your current level and equipment and everything. You just have to play through the whole damn game again. That got old fast. I did not enjoy the game very much. 4 was very good, but a confusing mess of a game till you realize it's more of a prequel to the whole series and kind of shows the start of everything. Even the goddess has a presence in this game that if you don't know that you can miss it. You know, it's actually, I believe it's a boss you fight later in the later part of the game that is actually the goddess from the first 3 games. But we can talk about the other games at another time. I just want to talk more about 3. If you can manage to find a copy of this for the PlayStation 1, pick it up. Get it and play this game. It is an amazing, wonderful game. I wish more people had played it. I wish more people had heard about it. Maybe if more people play this game, there's more talk of this game, maybe one day we'll get a re-release on maybe the PlayStation Network for it. I would love it, because I absolutely love this game, and it's just a tragedy that they haven't released this game in any other format outside of the old PS1 and then that European Japanese version they did for the PSP. And that's what I think of the game. It's a wonderful game. It's, to me, incredibly underrated, because you just, even at the time the game came out, it was just kind of positive reviews, but just kind of average. You know, it's like, okay, it's a good game. You know, let's wait for the next Final Fantasy. which to me this game is right on par with some of those Final Fantasies that came out in that time, like 7 and 8. And I really hope this series comes back. To me, that's another just travesty of the gaming industry that the Breath of Fire series pretty much died after Dragon Quarter. Now, I know there's Breath of Fire 6 coming out. It came out, I believe, in February in Japan, but it's strictly a mobile game for your phone, tablets, Windows, Android, iOS. That's not what we need. We need a console released game for this series. There's too many of these classic RPGs and game series in general that were phenomenal when they came out, but that was it. There was never, after like the PS2 era, they never did anything with these series, and they've pretty much died out. Um, they need to make more of these games. We need more console games. I want more Breath of Fire games. I love them. I love the series. Obviously, like I said, with the exception of Dragon Quarter being a hunk of crap. But go check it out if you can. You're probably going to have to search like eBay to find a copy if you want. Maybe there's an emulator out there. I really don't know. Play it. You'll love it. If you love the traditional fantasy style RPGs, you'll enjoy this game. So that's it. That's my talk about Breath of Fire 3. Obviously, I love the game. 5 out of 5 for me. I loved everything from start to finish with this game. It never got boring, never got old. It hooked me from start to finish, and it's a game everybody needs to experience. If you're the type of person that likes RPGs, obviously if you don't like RPGs, you're not gonna like this game. But if you do, you'll play it, love it. It's one of my favorite games of all time. I think everybody needs to play it. Go check it out if you can. Like I said, it's probably going to be hard pressed to find, being the only real release was for the PlayStation, unless you mod a PSP or something and get the European version for it. Other than that, it's probably out on some emulators. I don't know. But that's it. Thank you for watching, and give the video a like, subscribe. We'll be posting more videos to come. Like I said, probably tomorrow I will post a review for Crimson Peak, the movie that came out, because like I said, I finally got a chance to watch it this past weekend. And I'll talk about that. And then go like us on Facebook, facebook.com/schmucksreviews. Give it a like, share. Same thing with our YouTube page here. We'll be posting more videos, or at least I will. Duck probably might if he gets a camera and starts talking about his. So thank you, and enjoy.